Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
Babe, I forgot the ice. Be right back.
Okay. Get some snacks too.
Okay.
Hey, excuse me, sir. Did you forget something?
Actually, yes, we forgot a bag of ice for our drinks.
Worth 1 kobetsu. We could take care of that for you. Follow me. You said you needed ice?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else you needed?
Yes, maybe some snacks.
Sure. Okay, your order's complete, sir. Your order should be here shortly.
All right, great. Thank you.
Sir, here's your order.
All right.
Thanks.
失礼します。
1 kobetsu.
I'll ride with the horses, I'll swim through the sea, I'll climb to the mountain tops. Won't you come follow me? I'll take time to notice all that I see, and after I've come so far, you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. But life is a vision, that's how it should be. The world is a canvas, and the choices are free. At the end of the journey, where all is complete, they'll all wonder where I've gone, but you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. Our dreams last forever, for all that we know. The roads come together, and that's where we'll go.
The pompous
and elite
wish we go away.
because we are
real and direct.
no interest owns us.
And we have no interest but
The truth. Together we are exposing.
corruption.
Together we will reform criminal justice
Together,
We are fighting violence.
against women and children.
we here at
Candid
We'll shine the light.
on every corner of darkness.
Together, we are giving a voice
to the voiceless.
And forgotten.
Stay lit.
Together.
Together,
Together.
together,
We are giving a voice to the voiceless and forgotten.
we are Candid News Group.
Buenos and half a day. I'm Carlos Pangilinan.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
And I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Chris Carillo.
Welcome so much to our studios here on the 7th floor of the DNA building in Hagåtña, Guam. Welcome, Chris Carillo, Democratic candidate for senator.
Thank you, Troy, and nice for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about, myself, and maybe not a lot of people know me. Maybe some do, but...
Well, that's the whole point, is getting name recognition and recognition out there for new candidates. But I have to say, you're sharing a stage tonight. You're sharing the glory tonight with Carlos Pangilinan. So Carlos is the Carlos Pangilinan that we always talk about, has never been in our show. For the first time, he is co-hosting with us. So Carlos, Johnny, and I are the three incorporators of Kandit Incorporated. And 2 years ago, we got together. So this is Carlos, everyone.
Hi.
And Saipan, if you remember the guy that was with me when I was in Saipan, it was Carlos. This is not Jacob Nakamura. Jacob is someone else.
I'm not Jacob Nakamura.
Yeah.
I may look like Jacob Nakamura, but I'm not Jacob Nakamura.
All right. So let's get this party started. Tell our audience a little bit more about your background.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you guys once again for the opportunity to come and talk to your audience. And
Thank you for coming.
yeah, no, man, I'm originally from Hawaii.
No way.
I couldn't tell. Anyway, yeah, I'm originally from Hawaii. I moved here in 2007.
But you've been coming here for a long time.
I had been coming here
99?
The first time I came was 97, then I came again in 98. And both times I came out to play music for Carl Gutierrez.
Okay.
I met Carl then. He's a great guy. I mean, I know not everyone loves Carl, but I do. And he's taught me a lot about Guam politics, and he's taught me a lot about government in general. The guy's institutional knowledge is incredible. I've been blessed. I've been blessed to work with a lot of the people that I've worked with. But we'll get to that later. But, I mean, just to talk about me, so I had a son with a woman from here. Unfortunately, we broke up. When I was in Hawaii, I was in the financial services industry. I was a mortgage account executive for Alliance Bancorp for a lot of years. Previously I ran Pacific Monarch Financial. In 2005, we came out. We were almost going to open an office out here because Guam didn't have any wholesale mortgage lenders. And wholesale mortgage lenders is how the rest of the country does mortgages, where you have a loan officer that'll come to your house, do your credit application on his laptop, get an approval within 24 hours, get an appraisal, open escrow, and we can get a refinance done in 7 days. Help people, restructure their consumer debt to get it so that they're saving $700-800 a month, sometimes even up to a few thousand a month, depend on how much, you're able to move your interest rate. So when I first moved out here, I was teaming up with a businessman and a friend of all of ours Derek Kinata, who I had met when he was 18 at Carl Gutierrez's rally, and we had kept in touch. He came to Hawaii a few times. We met in Vegas. I've always had an affinity for Guam, and one of the reasons that I liked Guam so much is because that everyone is accessible to everyone. I mean, politicians, they actually listen to people here. I came from Hawaii, where it's a blue democratic machine, and we all stand in a line, and you answer the bell to the Democrats. So while I'm a pretty partisan Democrat, I also am an independent thinker, and I'm trying to look for solutions on how we can make Guam better. What do we do incorrectly? What kind of resources can we reallocate to make sure that we're providing the best customer service we can to the residents of Guam and make things easier for them? There's no reason we need to stand in line at Rev Tax for 3 hours when I can put kiosks all over the island. I just came back. My dad died right before COVID.
Sorry.
Yeah, right before COVID. My dad had moved here, as Carlos knows, about 5 years ago. I found out that he was homeless in Las Vegas, and I talked to my wife, and my wife said, "Look, bring him here. We have room." So we took my dad in, and unfortunately, he got a stroke, and then he had dementia, and he had deteriorated quite significantly, especially over the last few years. He was, on the older side. So he had died right before COVID, and I went to Hawaii, and I was walking around in Safeway, and I think I sent you this video
I saw it. I saw it.
of a kiosk where you can walk up to the kiosk and renew your driver's license. They print your tags out of the kiosk. If you were at Payless or Cost You Less or whatever supermarket you're at, and you can walk out and say, "Oh man, my car registration is going to expire next week. How about I just go to the machine?"
Oh my God, that sounds like such a dream for Guam.
I mean, Troy, you know how much a kiosk probably costs? Maybe 10, 15,000 bucks.
Yeah, I was gonna guess 25,000. So 10,
Maybe
15,000.
I mean, we looked.
Well,
we
if we
looked
get
at,
it from Big Soap Tea, it's probably going to be 25 grand.
Well, I mean, look, there's also technology that would have to be done, right? And I had worked alongside the speaker's office recently to do robotic inputs so that the data entry can be instantaneous rather than a person having to put it into this screen and then they pass the folder to a next person and they gotta enter it in this. The same information is getting entered like 11 different points. Yes. Because of our technology. And you notice, you tried to do things on the AS400 before. It's just...
Well, you know why we are stuck in the old age is because they want to keep us there. Because it keeps people from actually getting things done.
Well, I think a lot of it comes from, inability for the technology that we have to connect with newer technology, right? I mean,
because of the people who's making money off of that old technology.
And the contractors.
And yes, look, absolutely. Do I think that we're doing some things wrong? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Can we do things better? Certainly. I mean, it's people who take the will to just, and it's not a lot of, look, there are a lot of great GovGuam workers. I know, because I work in GovGuam and I go out and I talk to these hardworking people. They just want to do their job. And at the end of the day, we need to provide them adequate resources to make sure that they can effectively do their job. Troy, a lot of it is not what people say. It's we don't have the proper resources and the proper guidance. And a lot of people are stuck being a data clerk 3 and wondering, if I get a new technology, am I going to have a job? Absolutely. It's not about cutting manpower, right? It's effectively using the manpower. We could put more people towards tax collection. We could put more people in the public safety agencies. We can put more people at the hospital. We can put more people towards contact tracing for COVID-19 or any other pandemic that may arise, right? It's about taking a real assessment of what we have in GovGuam and making sure. I don't think that we need to fire anybody in GovGuam. We just need to appropriately place them where they'll be most effective in providing the services that we are required as a government to provide to our residents.
Well, let's talk about the prioritization of resources. because I think that's where that's going. Because I think the other conversation on how to do process improvement, that's the role of the governor.
Yes.
And you're running for a seat in the legislature, but
Absolutely.
prioritization of resources is the thing. But before we get to that story and then let this conversation evolve, and Carlos is actually going to be the main interviewer tonight, but we just need to dispense with a couple of things first, if you don't mind.
No problem.
First, do you like pets?
I'm a dog lover. I'm a dog lover. I always have been.
My harpsichord.
You know, and Troy, I gotta thank you because last year my dog passed away, and you shared a post.
That's right. That's right.
And you were like, "Hey, help Chris Carillo find out who had killed his dog," and I was distraught. My kids dug one grave. They have a gravestone in the back of my house for their dog, and you know, I mean, we need to make sure that the pets are safe and protected from the stray dogs that beat them up and the stray dogs that stealing their food.
Well, I asked you that question to sucker you into the next part.
Okay.
Can we put up the pets of the week? Well, there's a supply drive first. This Saturday at Kandit. Oh, go back to the supply drive. Sorry. This Saturday on August 8th at Kandit in Harmon from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. They're asking for Clorox. I don't know who is selling Clorox, but if you know Clorox, can you supply drive to Gain and to me as well? This is non-clumping litter. They're selling this, I think, at American Grocery or San Jose Mart for $2.99, the non-clumping litter. Garden hoses, laundry detergent, and rubbing alcohol. Or you can just get all that stuff inside Kandit and donate it to Gain Supply Drive this Saturday. So there's that, Chris, and everybody else here. If you and please do help to support the animals. In the
Are we able to drop off to Kandit, and then Kandit will drop off for us, or?
Yeah, we could do that.
Because Saturday at 9 o'clock is not like we're usually busy.
That's campaign day.
Yeah.
Well, no, absolutely. Thank you for that.
We'll sure I'll put that on the list.
All right, our first is again. I don't write these things. Okay.
I know you write them.
I do not.
You write them. I heard them.
Not this.
So I'm a photogenic cutie pie, huh? In just my 2 years of little lady life, I have developed some pretty fantastic modeling skills, and I really want to share all my moves and my looks with my new family. I hope to meet them soon. This is Geely, the cat. Oh, that's a cute cat, actually. Now, Jiggle, the kitten. Oh, did I get that in reverse?
No, I think that's right.
This is a kitten? The other one,
The other one
looked
was
like a kitten.
modeling.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm a pocket-sized little guy full of full-sized fun. I'm 2.5 months old, and I am rearing to go. I can't wait to explore this world with my new forever human. Come visit me at Gain today. I promise you I did not write this.
Forever?
Forever, yes. Rhea, the puppy. Don't let... No, that's a dog. There's Rhea.
Oh, that's the
Oh,
dog.
that's cute. That's a cutie patootie. Don't let my short legs fool you. I've got lots of energy and enough love to fill my heart and yours. I really like to play with my friends, eat snacks, and play in my water dish. I'm only 4 months old, so I have so much more life to give. Come have a slice of life with me. And lastly is Sir Duke, the dog. All right, now, it's pretty important that Sir Duke gets adopted first. Out of all of these animals, Sir Duke's the one who needs a home now, because that's just how it works. You know, it takes, everyone wants the puppy or the cute cat or the kitten, but when it comes to the older dogs, they'll stay there, and then after a while, when the animal shelter gets full, they have to be put down.
I understand.
And so this is what Gain says. I'm as regal as my name implies. Don't you worry. I'm a dignified gentleman of 3 years. I am potty trained. I do well on a leash, and I also love humans. I'm still deciding if I also love my fellow dogs, but humans are my favorite. I wouldn't mind being the only dog in the house, but we can discuss that over tea and biscuits when you come visit me again. Oh, I actually like that right up. That's sort of me in reverse. I like fellow dogs and not necessarily humans. Anyway.
It's sad though, the older dogs, right? I mean,
yeah,
it is. But look, at least here they get months. If you go to big cities like LA and Honolulu, it's like 6 days.
Yeah.
6 days?
Yeah,
Wow.
they fill up so quickly. And because the
Animal control catches dogs. And
their animal control units in the States actually go and do their jobs.
They go out and catch all the strays.
There's only 4 of them here, so it's hard for them to do the job that needs to be done. So there's that. We only had one real story today. I mean, all day, Jacob Nakamura was pressing refresh on Pacer, waiting for something to drop in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. You know, was there something unsealed today? Is there a new motion, a new warrant, something? But nothing. The U.S. Attorney for Guam and the NMI, Sean Anderson, ain't letting anything up. He even told us today, he was like, we asked, were there any criminal cases filed against Ralph Torres, his brothers, any of their wives, or his cabinet in the last week? The response we got was, we cannot confirm nor deny any pending investigations. We were like,
Well, it's the feds.
it's the feds. But, you know, Sean Anderson, the U.S. Attorney, is the new Santa Claus. You know, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout.
I'm telling you why.
Yeah. Sean Anderson's in town, the U.S. Attorney. But we did have a pretty substantive story today. Well, just tonight, when we reported that Senator Therese Terlahi yesterday wrote a letter to Senator Joe San Augustine asking, hey, yo, Joe, what's up with the budget? Because we don't have all of the information that we need. We're going into session on Monday. How can the senators be assured that we're going to have the information that we need to have a meaningful debate about the budget? I'm concerned because you haven't given us the formula yet, how you came up with the revenue projections. I'm concerned because these numbers don't look as low as they should be, all things considered. This year was a big anomaly. You know how revenues were projected, and at least in the Calvo administration, from my recollection, is that there was a historical trend that was done and an averaging that was done that cannot be done this year because this year is so different.
Well, they have to pass by the 30th, right? I mean, by the end of this month.
And yes, 30th or 31st?
Or 31st.
The 31st.
Okay, 31st, according to the law.
Yeah.
I think the legislature can always extend that out, all things considered, right?
Well, I mean,
But
but the senators won't get paid.
my question is isn't there like are we in deficit right now? Are we like there's a trigger if that certain amount is not met, then an automatic reserve of about 8%, right?
Yes, it's a 3%.
Or
If
3%,
we're not within
yeah.
3%,
Yeah.
then it triggers, and then we're
Yeah, but we're in the last quarter.
We're in our last quarter, and you know, I mean, I watched the news like everyone else, and I seen the Republicans put out a press release last week saying, you know, what's going on, $50 million, and they look at the same reports we look at, right?
Yeah.
So tax day moved from April to July. That's a big difference in cash, and you know because you worked up at Adlu. Tax day is when we collect the most money. So because tax day was moved, I haven't got final numbers yet, but I do know that the collection day was pretty good. And I know we're getting a lot of additional extra taxes because a lot of residents that were making $1,200 to $1,500 last year got checks from the federal government for their. Well, it's actually the PUA is that's the unemployment insurance. So that's the $345, right? So if people are making less than $500 and you take away the $150, any of the difference between they can go up to $345.
Yeah, but you add the FPUC and they're making
The
it to like
FPUC,
$850.
they're making $945. So there's a lot of people who were paying less tax last year because they just made less money. So while I'm not saying that the economic picture is rosy for next year, I think right now we're pretty stable, and we need to ensure that we can find a way to not stimulate the economy, but we need to look to diversify our economy. We need to look to other things that we can do.
Because in all effect, what we're really doing is just floating on federal money.
We're floating on federal money.
And so we cannot use whatever success there has been to
Right now.
stabilize the economy cannot be used in projecting forward because this is not going to happen again next year.
Yeah, but also to your point, we've never had a situation like this ever in the history, right? It's never happened except for wartime. These things just don't happen. So the budget itself is going to be an anomaly. We have to project on what we can project on. We have to project on payroll taxes that we know that are going to be collected. We need to project on the gross receipts tax that is still trending just a little bit below what we were last year, but still trending pretty good. and the corporate taxes. So we can project, but we don't know what kind of businesses are closed, because as this thing gets extended, and it probably will get extended, the cases have been rising. And, I'm just going to say this. I know a lot of people question whether or not we need to open up the economy 100% right now. Some people are questioning wearing masks. I'll tell you what, if we want the economy to rebound, all of us in the community got to work together and hope that we can quell this COVID that keeps, it's peaking up. We are doing a lot more testing, and to the point of a lot of people who are non-believers, our positivity rate is still very low. Our hospitalization is very low. So those are very positive indicators that it's not widespread in the community. A lot of the cases are getting caught in a quarantine facility, which to me is important that we have the quarantine facility until we develop either a good testing protocol with our source markets, or we can implement contact tracing on a wide mass, so that every person that comes to Guam, you sign up your mobile phone and they track you. They don't track Troy Torres, they'll track your mobile phone.
I'll never let them catch me.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that
Troy is out of here.
I want us to hear the first 5 minutes of the interview that we had with Senator Sharice Terlahi, specifically about the budget. So can we just play that the first 5 minutes, Cello?
All right, we're recording now. Hi, buenas, Senator.
Buenas, Troy.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Just
Don't mind
busy,
me.
but
I continue to be starstruck whenever I get to talk to you. So thank you for agreeing to this interview. I read your letter to the appropriations chairman. If you watch any of our stuff regarding the budget on Guam, you'll know that we agree with you. That there are so many unanswered questions about this year's budget and next year's budget, and you've taken a keen interest on next year's budget because the legislature is going into session on Monday, and there are a lot of unanswered questions. But the first one that stood out to me from your letter is that the revenue projections for FY21 are mirrored to the adopted revenues of FY19. What do you think is happening there?
well, we don't have any. That's not the formal document we have in front of us. So the only formal document we have in front of us right now is the budget request from the governor, which is above the 2019 levels.
Okay.
In our last meeting with OFB, they had talked about using the 2019 levels, so we looked at those. And but I think, as you know, that the revenues are they're the problem for us right now. And all I want to do is have some confidence when we adopt these revenues, because I think there's a fine line between being, responsibly optimistic and just irresponsible. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I think everyone in the legislature has the same concerns. Of course, no one is can predict the future. So no one knows for sure. We are making assumptions, and we want to know what those are. And I think we're going to all have to be optimistic reasonably, in order to move forward. And there's vital services that we need to provide. And so we're, of course, hoping that we're going to have enough revenues to provide these. I think where a lot of the discussion might lie is just when you look at actuals, the revenues are far less than any of these projected revenues that they're saying for FY20. And so, of course, I'm curious for FY21, if we're using projected revenues similar to how they've projected this FY20 during this COVID period, they're very optimistic. And so I far more optimistic than the actual revenues. So I want to see the formula that's being incorporated. And I think there may be a different formula. I'm trying to, confirm this, that there may be a different formula that's being used in the CRER versus the formula that we are going to use during session. And I think I'm hoping that will be the case. The CRER, of course, predicts, it shows you the actual, which is great, and it's going to predict based on their formula what we're going to get at the end of the year. So I've asked the Department of Administration to please show us this formula that they are using, and they've said that they're using CARES money and incorporating that being in our economy into our projected revenues. And so exactly how they do that is really, I think, where any contention might lie, is confirming how are they doing that? Is OFB doing it the same? They seem to be doing it a little differently. And so I just want to have confidence in that.
So, Senator, there seems to be problems with the use of that, well, with budgeting going forward. And I understand that the previous formulas used, were more or less on target within the 3% normally. And it was basically you go back a certain number of years. You average that out, you add some variables in, and you try not to accept variables that are not a year-to-year sort of going forward thing. And so in this case, if they add the CARES Act funding into the formula for projections, number one, we're not going to get an accurate picture moving forward because next year we don't get the CARES Act funding, the revenue. And number two, shouldn't they factor some sort of an anomaly into their formula because of the big anomaly? I mean, it's COVID-19. So your thought?
So we're actually not going to get a formula because Senator Joseph Augustine today wrote back to Senator Chalikilis and says, the Office of Finance and Budget has not changed its position on the projection on revenue estimates, and this estimate is generated with no specific formula. Like, what in the holy hell is going on in the Guam legislature? How does our budget chairman? Okay, so basically, we are going to fly this one by, what's the saying? By the
seat of our pants.
By the seat of our pants. And I get it. This is a very different kind of year to do budget projections. But if we're not going to be honest with ourselves about what really is going on here and how bad things can be next year, then and in the rest of this interview that you can hear on either our website or our Facebook page, she talks about the need to fund critical services, and then she says but the number one priority, and somehow it needs to be legislated, is the payment of tax refunds. So talk to us, Chris, about where tax refunds ranks in your list of priorities, and what are these critical services, and do you generally agree with what Senator Chalikilis is saying?
I agree with her question because it's difficult for us right now to really project on what's going to happen next year without actually having travel data for tourists. If we don't know how many, there's a calculus that comes along with the travel data, so we can project how much hot bond money we're going to get, how much $600 per tourist that they spend on any given weekend, so we know.
But you understand that what the administration and the OFB have done is they did this projection reducing tourist attraction fund or hot money, but they didn't correspondingly reduce it on the GRT side and the corporate income tax side.
I do understand, Troy, what the question is. The problem is we're in an unprecedented time where we're gonna trust that the governor and the legislature are gonna do their due diligence over the next 3 weeks. Look, they gotta pass the budget by the 31st. We're all gonna be there working morning, noon, night, all late into the night, trying to make sure that we hit our revenue projections, trying to make sure that we don't fund any vacant positions so that we can take those monies, put them aside.
She did say that.
We need to look at, maybe we're not going to be able to put away 2% for a rainy day fund this year. 2% of $1 billion is $20 million. So that can be one way we can save money. We need to use all non-essential travel shouldn't happen. We might be able to save some money on DOE because we don't have as much one-to-one instruction. We need to look at ways that we can consolidate expenses. we're gonna have to pull out all the stops to manage us through this. It's an executive branch function, but the people who are the senators in the 36th Guam legislature are gonna have to be prepared to be in session and look for complex ways that we can use to make sure that the funds are being used appropriately, and that we can make sure that we provide critical services like our public safety department. We got to continue to hire public safety officers. In the last 2 years, we hired about 60 new public safety officers. We need to find a way to not only recruit those officers, but we need to improve morale in the public safety department. We also need to look, to keep them. Retention is important. They come into customs and they make a half of what they make for U.S. Customs. So to get all the training off Gov Guam, and then U.S. Border Patrol will take them and they'll move to San Diego for 6 months and come back to Guam or Saipan.
But Chris, how are you going to do that? So let's say you come into the 36th legislature.
Yes.
Let's say this 35th legislature over the next 3 weeks passes what turns out to be, what happens to be, a rosier than should have been budget. And then in the 36th legislature, with only 3 out of 4 quarters left, you guys are faced with, wow, we should not have given the administration this spending authority. And so now we need to cut. What are you going to cut in order so that those priorities that you just said can be funded?
Look, you ask me what we got to cut. I don't ever think that cutting personnel or personnel costs is a good thing, because I think it...
Then how about contracts?
I think that we can look at getting rid of some unnecessary contracts.
Okay.
I think that we can look at consolidating legal services with several agencies. Can have one legal counsel maybe instead of having a single one for each.
Okay.
I just don't believe in the cutting people. Look, we get 35,000 people on our island unemployed.
No, Chris, that's fine. I completely get what you're saying. No, we're not going to grill you about cutting people.
Yeah.
You already said that, and that's fine. But where else would... So if people are safe, then what is it that you're going to... So you said contracts, some contracts?
Contractual services probably going to have to be looked at real...
Because that's a huge portion of the budget.
That is a huge portion of the budget. Well, it's not as big. Stuff like the local preference we might have to look at, because we are procuring goods and services from local companies that maybe we could get off island cheaper so that we can save money there. It's not something we want to do, because the government's role, right, is always to foster the small business economy. So we want to give the business to the small businesses. We want to make sure we give them every advantage. But we also need to look at how are we going to make it through to the end. And also, if the budget projections, come out to be way short, then there's going to be a trigger. They're going to have to send out a supplemental budget request to ask us to cut. And most likely it'll be the executive branch that's going to tell us what they want to cut, and we need to negotiate with them and make sure that we negotiate in good faith and we're making sure that we can provide the services, public safety, rev and tax, vital statistics at public health. These are things that are instrumental in just getting our residents to live every day.
Well, I think it should be done anyway, even without this. We need to cut it.
The last time, actually, and it was pretty unprecedented, that a governor proposed actual spending cuts was in 2012 when and he needed authority from the legislature to do so. He said, okay, there are things that I can cut and I am cutting that don't require the legislature's approval. But there are things that require the legislature's authority, and these are the things I want to cut. Can you guys, and you can blame it on me during election, but we just need to cut because we need, at this time, we need to make sure we pay tax refunds. It was a very deliberate financial plan. Senators rejected it because of the political implications. Do you guys remember what in 2012 when it was a big fight?
Well, we fought with,
and it didn't need to be
full disclosure. At that time, Chris and I were actually working for a certain gentleman by the name of B.J. Cruz.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were fighting with you like every day.
But it was an earnest. I can tell you, it was an earnest and honest attempt to actually cut spending from year to year in the government of Guam.
Look, do I think there's systemic problems in our government? Absolutely, and we discussed some things already that we need to do, right? How about that we subsidize the hospital with $30 million every year? Why don't we take some of that money and subsidize small businesses and incentivize them to put people on health insurance? If we got them to put people on, let's say we subsidize the hospital with 32 million last year. in the budget.
You're talking about from the pharmaceuticals fund.
Yeah,
right?
we have the pharmaceuticals fund, the Healthy Futures Fund, Guam Cancer Care also does. So let's say we took some of that cash and instead of giving it directly to the hospital, this is not something that can happen tomorrow, right? This is going to have to take some planning. It's going to have to take some negotiation with the health insurers. It's going to have to take some negotiation with small business owners. But what is what's the reason that so many people on Guam don't have health insurance?
Because they cannot afford the, what's it called, the premium or whatever that their company offers, or because their company doesn't even offer health insurance.
Right.
It's too expensive.
It's too expensive. The reason that it's expensive is, let's say you work for company A that has 1,000 employees. They have 1,000 people putting money into a pie, right? And then I own a small business. My pie, I get 10 employees. So how much is my insurance plan going to be compared to the plan with 1,000 people?
Yours going to be astronomically more.
Right.
Yeah, relative to the number.
Relative to the number. The way insurance works is the more people put money into the pie,
The cheaper.
because the healthier, younger people won't use their health care as much. They cover the older people, right? So let's say we could get, right now there's about 80,000 people working on Guam. 80,000. We have 31,000 subscribers in the government of Guam healthcare plan, which is why the healthcare plan on Guam is pretty affordable. But is it affordable? I come from Hawaii, and I don't mean to bring this up, but in 1974, Hawaii passed a law that required employers to pay your health insurance if you worked more than 20 hours a week. Anyone who worked 20 hours a week, they had to have health insurance. And their premium couldn't equal more than 1.5% of their monthly salary, the employee.
Okay, and has it worked?
Hawaii Obamacare followed Hawaii's model, basically. Obamacare had no effect on Hawaii's healthcare market.
Okay, so are you suggesting a universal healthcare system for Guam?
I think eventually we all should agree that that's probably the best, because that would put 160,000 people putting into the pie. What happens when we have 160,000 people putting money into a pie? You gonna get better health care at lower rates and better services.
There is certainly something to be said about consolidating
The
health
private sector.
services. I mean, also full disclosure, when I was working with Chris, he spent a lot of time trying to push healthcare issues, almost to the point where everyone in the office were like, "Oh my God, when is he going to stop?" But I've worked in healthcare almost 8 years, I think, by now, and I think if you look at what GovGuam spends on health insurance, what it spends on direct healthcare services, the hospital, behavioral health, the regional clinics, we're probably hitting upwards of maybe $250 million, including the federal dollar, the Medicaid. So I think there's a lot of, to his point, I wouldn't necessarily look at it in terms of having universal health care, but kind of looking at where all the money is going toward healthcare services, because that really ultimately is what that money would be paid on, whether it is a one system that pays or a third party payer.
But I don't even think, Carlos, to your point, I don't even think that's where we need to start. What if we could put 20,000 private sector employees, the 6,000 people that work in hotels that don't have health insurance, that are just banquet people, and they have two jobs, and they don't have health insurance?
It's a big deal to people.
It's a big deal, right? So let's say we can take those 6,000 people from Tuman who are working in the hotels, the other 4,000 that are working in other hospitality areas, 10,000 people, and let's say we can incentivize those hotels somehow to say, look, we'll give you a 1% reduction on your corporate tax or your payroll tax if you give these people this insurance plan that we're trying to get you guys to work on.
And you pool it.
And you pool it.
Okay.
You get all of them into one plan. There's already, the Guam Contractors Association is doing it. Guam Chamber of Commerce is doing it. The Women's Chamber. Why aren't the three of those people getting together and they have probably 10,000, 15,000 employees that are represented in those. Why aren't they working collaboratively together?
Okay.
I mean, those are like, it's just common sense to work together to make healthcare affordable, because it's unsustainable. We'll never be able to pay all the bills that we got to pay if we got to keep subsidizing healthcare. It's unsustainable.
So it sounds like healthcare is one of your big issues. So we're going to come back to that conversation.
Okay.
I just need to ask you two questions, get them out of the way. One,
go ahead.
your position on gambling.
If you ask me, if we ban game rooms, it doesn't mean we're gonna ever get rid of gambling. I'm a proponent of, if things are bad, then let's regulate it and make some money off it so we can set up treatment programs. So if you ask me, I'm for more freedom, but with freedom comes responsibility. So what we need to do is, if we keep the game rooms open, we need to make sure they're regulated, because I know that they're very responsible as far as their tax. I look at their collections and they're always up to date. You don't see problems with the game rooms as far as to regulation on the rev and tax side. Social ills.
Well, that from what you can see from the reports.
From what we see from the reports.
But would you admit that?
Yeah,
there
that's
are
what
things
we
that
can
you cannot see.
There
there
are things, and that's why. But full disclosure, I'm friends with some people that are in the industry.
Okay.
But more important, right now, in this austere economic time, is it responsible for the government to give up $8 million of revenue when we don't know how much money we can get? And that's a consistent revenue every year.
But what
But
about
off the
black
backs
market?
of that consistent revenue is off the backs of people like me.
Absolutely.
Recovering addicts, drug addicts, people that steal from their mom. That is where that revenue is coming from.
I
And full
absolutely
disclosure,
understand.
my family owned a lot of game rooms a long time ago.
Okay.
My mom gave it up, and her reasons for giving it up is she felt like, we'll just leave that for my reason.
And I understand.
I understand where you're coming from with the revenue, but it's off the backs of people like me. Okay.
And
then wait.
Okay.
Then at that hearing, all of them had solutions all of a sudden. They all know that we need more behavioral health and more doctors to help people like me, but none of them got it done.
No, and you're absolutely right. We are severely lacking in treatment programs for addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother was in jail for 7 years because he was a drug addict. And I grew up with my brother. My brother was like one of the most popular guys in my high school, and he was a musician, and I got to play music because I was my brother's brother. And I knew he did some drugs, I never knew it was to the level.
Going back to the issue of gaming, it sounds like you're for more regulatory
Look,
stuff.
I believe that people got to be able to choose what they want. But when they choose, the government needs to be there to support them in case they fall off the wayside. So somebody like, for instance, like Johnny said, she's the person that is affected, right? Okay, Johnny, then we need to have somewhere set up for you that if you're addicted to something, you come to the government, and the government has a place for you to go, someone for you to talk to make sure we can make you get better. Because if we just sweep the problems under the rug, especially with gambling, how many times have I been to parties all over the place where there's card tables going on?
Yeah, but that's very different from game room gambling.
Very different. Understood. Troy, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that
you're not going to lose your house and your family from those card tables at parties.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
But there are games that go on that are underground. Like, remember the Chinese at
but you have to be invited to those.
Right, but those people also gamble.
And then also with the you have to admit with these game rooms, I don't know if you ever been in one, but there are some bad stuff that is allowed that people turn a blind eye that's happening when they're sitting at that and people are coming in, and you know what I'm talking about.
What?
You get what I'm
Full
saying?
disclosure, I never went. I mean, I played Liberty a couple times at Tautamona Lounge when Tautamona Lounge used to be open.
Fun, right? It's actually a fun game.
Hey, look, if you just go and
not
have
for
a
the gambling
good time,
app,
just to pass the time and have fun, yeah.
Have you ever
But
done
if you're addicted to anything,
Yes, I was addicted
like
to
I'm
it.
addicted to cigarettes. I shouldn't be smoking cigarettes. I'm 50 and I'm fat.
Well, I was going to call you, and then we can move on after this. I wanted to call you out on that because your explanation for more freedom in this whole gambling thing, it contradicts an argument that we had before. Remember when I think it was BJ wanted to increase or did increase the smoking age from 18 to 21.
I wrote the bill.
Yes, and you told me, we argued about this because I was like, Chris, you know, I'm going to ask the governor to veto this. I'm going to walk in there as a citizen and say, Governor, can you veto this because this is interfering with the free will, the free choice. And you said, that's fine, Troy. But what happens when they get sick and the government has to take care of them?
Right, I know. Look, I remember, but when BJ Cruz tells you, get this done, because he's seen a 16-year-old boy smoking one cigarette outside of his door that will remain unnamed right now. You just remember that day.
Look, okay, you were talking about a guy, and I won't mention names. Okay, he sees one of our employees smoking at the entrance of the legislature, and he doesn't like that. And then he tells this employee, I want you to write a bill that says you have to smoke 20 feet away or 30 feet away. And she did it.
Okay. I mean, all right. But you would.
Yes.
I have a fair point, right?
Yeah, super fair.
Okay.
But I am. Look, part of the reason I want to run for senator is because people need help. People make mistakes in life. People make bad choices, and that don't mean they're a bad person. That just means they made a mistake.
I agree with that.
Look,
I super agree with that. I have to make the mistake 6 times in order for me to realize
I go
that
to
it's a
church every
mistake.
single day because I make mistakes all the time.
Look, none of us is infallible, Troy. Let me tell you, I made lots of mistakes in my life, but you know what is one mistake that I didn't make? My one mistake that I never made, and that I feel like Guam was the best choice I ever made for me. And my son, and seeing how he loves this place, and his friends and his cousins, that's why I gotta run for senator, because I cannot let my son down. I cannot let your kids.
So what you're saying is change is something necessary.
I don't.
Obviously,
I mean,
there's.
I'm not saying that senators are bad. I'm not saying that the governor is bad.
We're not asking you that. We're just.
What I'm saying is that we need
Generally.
to fundamentally change how we do some things on Guam.
Fair
And
point.
it's nothing that is nefarious. I don't think that anyone goes into the legislature to say, "Oh man, I'm going to go and pass bills to make X and O money."
Oh, of course not. We
You
know that.
You don't have to worry about the soundbite politics with us.
No, yeah.
You know, so we're not trying to cast aspersions,
Right.
or anything like that. So, truly, change.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I get some innovative ideas. I'm a progressive Democrat, but I'm also a fiscal conservative, which Carlos knows. I always question budgets. He knows. I've worked with him for years. Even when we're not working.
You're a Clintonian.
Kind of. That's my guy. If everybody asks me, Barack's your favorite president, I campaigned hard for him. I remember we won by 7 votes. Josh Senatorial was the campaign manager, and my wife did the media, and BJ Cruz was our guy. And I remember we counted the votes, and the night that we were there, we were at the old legislature at Hessler, and we won by 7 votes.
You're talking about Democratic Party.
The
caucus.
Democratic
the
caucus for
caucus.
2008 when Obama.
But you're a Clinton guy,
Clinton was my favorite president.
but not like Hillary Clinton, right? She's a little murderous.
I gotta tell you,
Where are our Trump and Biden sleeves?
mine would have
Our
to.
76 Trump and Biden sleeves.
I gotta tell you that I feel like our position in the world with Trump hasn't improved. We've regressed in respect that we're getting from other countries. Countries like Germany that are beacons. You know who created Germany's economy? The United States. They set up their whole system of government. But guess who got on government surplus before going into COVID? And guess who is $21 trillion in debt? We're in debt. So maybe we got to reevaluate the way we do things.
Well, that's that national politics.
I'm not talking about national
I know,
politics,
but
but
it's too boring. I know Carlos has a lot of questions regarding healthcare. So just so everyone knows, Carlos is works for Guam Memorial Hospital. He's in their business office.
I'm not here to represent them. I won't accept. I won't speak for the hospital.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that's a sensitive thing. But he's his thing has been healthcare management and public hospital management. So he's got questions for Chris.
So, Chris, what can you articulate are the problems with healthcare in Guam, and what are some of your ideas on how to deal with them?
Okay, well, so we got into this a little bit earlier, but I think that a lot of small businesses like my own, we want to give everyone healthcare because we know that the way to a healthy society is, number one, wellness checkups to make sure you're not sick. Right now, a lot of people on Guam are dependent on, guess what? I'm not sick, I don't want healthcare, I'm not going to the doctor because I can't afford the $150.
That's the story of the majority of this island's life.
So what happens, Troy? They wait until they're sick.
Yeah, or we get a flower and put it wherever the flower needs to be put.
Right. And then they go to the hospital and they find out they get stage 3 cancer or they get type 2 diabetes. And then who has to shoulder the burden of their care? Number one, it's going to be their family. Their family's tax refunds going to be garnished, right? You sign the thing, you're responsible. They're garnishing your tax refunds. So now that $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 you got every year is going to go to the government for something that, look, and your $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 is not even putting a dent into what you owe, because when you go to the emergency room, you're paying $3,500, which is why one thing that I can appreciate that the Calvo administration did was set up those urgent care facilities, right? Because if people can go people can, if you're sick, you can go $300 to urgent care, and then they give you medicine and you can get better. Great. If not, you got to go to the emergency room. So what? You spend $300. You got to go to the emergency room because you're really sick. But people will be more apt to go if there was an affordable place for them to go. So businesses like mine and other small businesses who want to provide health care to their employees, they can't do it because it's so expensive. It's so expensive. I know. My wife tried to sign up through the chamber, and it was like $10,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, for our 10 employees.
Wow.
The thing though, Chris, is with like healthcare reform, like particularly with like the Obama stuff, like going back to 2009. It's a very it's a volatile issue, really. There's a lot of there's a lot of things going on,
moving parts,
and you're a businessman, and you and your wife are doing a great job with your business, but when they hear of reforms like that, sometimes they think cost, and it sometimes it scares them. So what can you say to people, business owners like that, when who have those concerns? Well, yeah, I feel for the employees and stuff like that, but I'm worried about how much this is going to cost us in the long run.
That's a great question, right? And I asked myself the same thing. So I think what we need to do, like I spoke about earlier, is find ways we can incentivize these businesses, right? It's not just about taking more money from small businesses. The government's role is to help small businesses, to foster the growth, to make sure that more money gets into our economy. We're a closed economy. If people is not coming to our island because tourism is dead, where is the money coming from? Stable sources of income like government workers, the private sectors, whose businesses are supported by government workers, right? Government workers, they go to the bars, they go to the restaurants, they go to the retail establishments. So,
well, there's also the military and the private sector workers who are working, and the private sector workers who are receiving federal assistance
right now.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's why it's a combination of all. Our economy has 3 legs. Everyone will always tell you our first leg is tourism, right? Our second leg is government spending, and our third leg is federal spending and military spend. Right now, tourism is out, so our 2 legs are, teetering. We need to build a fourth leg. What can we do? Well, first thing we do is deliver quality health care to a lot of people. That will allow us to have extra money in our coffers for treatment programs, to make sure that we're taking care of those people. Look, no drug addict started out doing drugs to be a bad person or to be a thief. They tried it out. They liked it. They tried to stop. They knew they was having a problem. And look, like I told my brother, once that thing get a hold of you, it has you. And you just got to stop. You got to get into treatment. Going to jail is probably the best thing that happened to my brother. He get his kids, working again, back to being a popular musician. And I told him, you got to be cognizant of your issues. You got to be cognizant of your issues, and you got to be responsible. If you feel like you're tempted, you got to call your wife and say, you know what, come pick me up, or whatever it is.
It takes family support in order for you to get
absolutely.
better.
It takes
Right.
it takes people to show that they love you and they care about you.
Most definitely.
Because look, what is the number one reason people is addicted to drugs?
They don't
drugs
feel,
are good.
No.
they don't
It's
feel
because
love.
it's because of despair.
Yeah.
That's your friend. That's the one thing you can count on, is that high. And you know what? It's never going to be as good as the first time, and you keep chasing them. You keep chasing that high.
We're on the subject of drugs, and let's just address the elephant in the room for Simon. That's the
2013
was it
dismissal.
2013?
Yeah. It was dismissed in
There was a
2013.
case that was dismissed,
Right.
But it involved a raid at a place that you were living.
I was living. Yeah.
Was it your home?
I was living with Carlo Branch at the time.
Okay.
There was a package that addressed to Carlo Branch. Look,
Do you want to talk about
I don't really want to go into a lot of it, but I'll tell you that this does connect. All of this right now, our discussion is having this connect. So I was accused of a crime. The courts dismissed the cases with prejudice because
Meaning they
felt
can't bring it back, or they can't.
they cannot bring it back.
Okay.
Because my civil rights were violated. Not only were my civil rights violated, I never even touched it. So
what was it that you were?
it was a
accused
box.
of?
It was a box of marijuana.
Okay.
It said gift on the box. I was burning trash. I told Carlo, get something for your brother. I don't really go into it because it was a painful thing for my family.
Okay.
It was a painful thing for me. But you know what? I'm gonna tell you, when I was there, and I'll tell you this, my bill was $250,000 for 1 pound of weed.
Your what?
Bail.
My bail was
Bail.
$250,000.
Was it local or federal?
Local?
Who gave you a $250,000 bill?
Whoever the judge was.
Did you pay it? Like,
No,
what-
I was on hold. I was in jail for 9 days. 9
Whoa.
days.
No, this is what happens. They put bail. Then, as the days go by, your family will request for another bail hearing for them to lower it, or give third party, or that's how
give you
how
a-
the system works, Troy.
Did you know that people accused of aggravated assault are like out in the next day? Like
I was in jail. Troy, I was.
or if they have bail, it's like $1,000, yo.
My bill was. So this is why I don't want to really get into the details, because, I mean, if you I told you the bail amount, and both of your eyes are looking at me, and that's what my bill was, $250,000.
So what I want to promise you, because I know what the rumors were. This was during the Calvo administration, and I know that there was a rumor that I was involved in whatever in sending people. First of all, I would never do that. Secondly, I had no idea what was going on, that there was even an operation until it was in the news.
I remember that.
Right?
The customs sitting outside, like, why haven't they gone in the house?
Yeah.
What's going on?
But third, I fully believe that someone in the Calvo administration had something to do with that.
Look,
as a political thing.
I
fully believe it.
I don't want to cast aspersion on anyone.
I'll do it for you.
You can do that. But okay, so like I said, I was accused of a crime. The courts found that they had violated my rights, and they dismissed the case. But out of that came a new understanding for me. It was an understanding that I found with my brother. It was an understanding that I found with a lot of people that I know that were addicted
Because
to drugs.
society, from that day, you became a second-class citizen.
Well, I'll tell you what.
You know what I mean?
Not really. What I learned that was more important to me, Johnny, was when I went in jail, the first night, people wanted to fight with me. So I know violent offenders, they belong in prison. But I met 80% of the people I met in there, were on drug cases. And there was people that is working, that are trying to support their kids. They were good people. They made a mistake. So I think that sometimes when we look at the correctional facility, we need to make that correctional facility work for our detainees and our inmates, right? We need to have full-time drug therapy. We should have, if it's a non-violent.
I think you got a very good point, because Troy and I have a mutual friend. I'm not going to get into who it is because I don't want to embarrass anyone. But the bottom line is this person we know went through a lot of struggle in his life with drugs. And a good part of his life was spent off island. And the reality is that, and this is just something he tells me. When I come to Guam, it's hard. It's really hard. He just didn't. I'm not trying to asperge anyone about whoever's in the business of providing rehab services, but his cry was, "I'm not getting the help I need here."
Well, I mean, look, we get Lighthouse, we get Oasis, right? We don't have a lot of drug therapy. Behavioral health and wellness, I heard they get 10 beds now. Mm-hmm. Why don't we have 100 beds? We know that's our number one social ill is methamphetamines.
And that's because of the people in power who have the power to do something, want to just sweep us under the rug like we don't exist.
But that's not right, though.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, look, you never cure your problems. You never cure your problems by pushing it to the wayside. The only way you cure your problems is you look at them, you look it in the eye, and you say, let's get together, work it out. How can we treat these people? How can we make these people, because you know what? More people working in the economy, providing, guess what happens? We collect more tax revenue. Less people got to be on federal assistance. Less people got to be on GURA. Less people have to be, begging, homeless. Mm-hmm. That's because, and it's not the legislature, and it's not the courts, and it's a problem. And we're not coming together 100% as a community to understand that drug abuse is not a crime. Drug abuse is a sickness, and we got to treat it as such. And until we do, and that's what I learned in jail, it made me understand completely who my brother was. Because I was sitting down talking to people. The first day, people got into fights with me, whatever. By the last day, I was everyone's jailhouse lawyer because I write code, I can read their cases, right? So they're bringing me their cases saying, hey, what's going on with this, And I would counsel them. I say, brother, you got to just get off the drugs. I swear to God, 9 out of every 10 of them was just in there for drugs.
Yeah.
And they tell me that they'd never been arrested until they learned how to steal when they was in jail. They learned how to rob people when they was in jail. They learned criminal enterprises when they was in jail.
And not before they
went there. So what does that tell us? Maybe we got to segregate the violent criminals from the non-violent criminals. We need to make those non-violent criminals be learning Microsoft Office and Microsoft Word and Excel so that they can come out and be ready to go to a job. And maybe we can incentivize businesses to hire these people that have a criminal pay. Because I tell you what, it's not easy to get a job after you. I think that we need to reevaluate how we do our court and our police clearances. If it's not an active case, why should it be on your police or court clearance?
Chris, you're obviously very smart. You're intelligent. You're very versed on the issues. You have a plan. Like you know what you want to do. You have all the qualities of a good candidate, and that answers why a person should vote for you if they agree with the positions that you've taken, right?
Right.
There are people who will not agree with universal healthcare, whatever. Okay, so now the issue comes to, and for some of the comments that I'm seeing, it's more of a trust thing, considering your associations and your party loyalty.
Okay.
And so my question has everything to do with corruption. And just flat out, I know there's corruption that happened in the Calvo administration, and we've seen and reported on corruption in the Leon Guerrero administration. Now, she is a Democrat. Well, I think we all voted for her, I think, right? But you've been a supporter somewhat of hers. You've been a supporter of her, I'm going to call them minions in the Democratic controlled legislature. You want to do these things, and they sound like really good things. Well, what if the governor doesn't agree with it? What if your Democratic colleagues, for whatever political reason or whatever corrupt reason that there may be, don't want to do that? Are you just going to go along with it and be like, okay, let's push that off for whatever? You know, how much is
Okay,
How
I
can
get
you
your
assure us
question.
that politics is not going to control?
Okay, let me tell you this. Carlos will tell you, I am the biggest guy for justice. I mean, Carlos, you gotta, I am always about justice, and I think you know this too about me. I was taught real early in politics, especially when I was working in BJ Cruz's office, that Chris, you cannot be soft on your friends. The people you hardest on is your friends, so that you can hold people accountable. Because at the end of the day, all we have is our integrity. And one thing I can tell you about working for BJ Cruz, it taught me about being full of integrity and respecting the office that you're sitting in. Being a senator is about being respectful, and it's about having integrity. Without those things, you cannot ever. So if somebody brought me evidence, and let's say I was the chairman of a committee, and I had direct oversight, and they brought me evidence of something corrupt, whether it was the Leon Guerrero senatorial administration, the Calvo administration, or whoever, Troy Torres' administration, I would call him out on it. I would have an oversight hearing. It doesn't have to be, an oversight hearing doesn't have to be you and me yelling at each other, right? It has to be with, why did this happen? Why did it happen this way? And why are you contravening the law?
Yeah. So you would be willing. So
you absolutely have to.
Politically,
because
that's going out on a limb.
Listen, they're my friends. I campaigned hard for them. I believe in them. A lot of people, they don't like them now. I feel like they've done a great job as far as the public health side of the emergency. Look, we've been relaxing things over the last few weeks, and now cases are trending upward. So we know just by science. Maybe I hear you guys talk about the Pacific Star. I probably would have done the same thing that she did, because there's 800 people coming in from Manila in 3 days. I need a hotel so that this doesn't get out into the community. Because let's say she didn't. We had 11 cases in the first 3 days or whatever. Let's say those 800 people got out into the community. How many cases would we have had? How many people would have died? How many people would have gotten sick? What if our hospital was overrun? So,
well, why not other hotels?
It could have been any hotels. From my understanding and what I heard in the oversight hearing that Senator Paris had, only three hotels said yes, and then Pacific Star came on later.
Only 3 hotels said yes when the request for quotations was about a quarantine, not an isolation and quarantine facility. Because other hotels came forward and said, had we known,
they might have done them. Because they did. A lot of those hotels did do quarantine later on for the Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right? But okay.
But aren't there still, as just normal citizen, aren't there still questions in your mind about how that procurement went? Aren't
the backdating of documents?
That kind of stuff, I'm not going to stand up for them. I don't know what happened.
But as a senator, what would you have done?
As a senator, I might question that kind of stuff, like backdating documents and stuff. But the Emergency Health Powers Act, it exists for a reason.
I know. Notwithstanding that, though, there is a right way to do things. There's the right thing, and then there's not the right thing. Law or no law, it's ethics.
Right. No,
right?
And I understand that, Troy. But I'm saying that if any 4 hotels, I don't care which 4, could have been any 4. I would have been okay if she procured it the way she did. Just in the initial procurement, because that is what saved us from having a big outbreak like they had in a lot of places.
Sure, and no one's contesting that. I think what's being contested here
is the style of procurement and backdating of documents, and
there are just too many unanswered questions.
Right, and you know what?
And the coincidence of the mortgage existing between the Bank of Guam and this hotel that was chosen, I mean, it leaves a lot to be desired of answers from our governor.
Absolutely. Look,
And I'm not asking you to
I mean,
defend
look,
the
I'm not
governor
going to
and all
come
that
out here
stuff.
and bash them. Do I think there are unanswered questions? Yes. Do I think Senator Sabina is trying her best to unearth those questions? Yes. But at the end of the day, the legislature really has no role over the federal money, right? The ones that are going to find out if we did it incorrectly or correctly is the feds. And as you know, and you point out so eloquently on your show, they don't mess around.
They don't.
So
Sean
if
Anderson's
it
the
was
2020
done,
Man of the
if
Year.
it was done incorrectly, there will be hell to pay for whoever did it incorrectly.
I agree.
So
Let's just bring this back to you, though.
okay,
What the question really is, if you were elected senator,
yes,
when you're sitting there in the legislature and you see something because either a whistleblower brought it to you or evidence comes out before your committee or in the news or whatever,
right,
that something wrong has happened that needs to be corrected, and the person who did the wrong is one of your friends in the administration or a fellow senator on the Democratic side, I think what people want to know is, are you going to have the ethics and the integrity to actually do something about it?
And I think my answer is yes.
Okay.
If I find out something was improper, nefariously done, or done that it's contravenes the law, I certainly will look into it. I certainly will have an oversight.
So you're okay with calling your friends out?
I mean,
I think
I don't know if you ever been to our old office on a Friday afternoon.
Well, I think what really needs to be imparted for anyone running for the legislature is the role of transparency. That's something that I think the legislature can do. The legislature can
promote,
invoke policies that promote an environment where it becomes more transparent, and disclosures, timelines.
And you were very big about that. I remember that you were very big about that when I was in the Cowell administration. Right. And you, don't get me wrong, I know that you're a big proponent of transparency. Believe me, I was on the receiving end of that. But things have changed, and it's no longer Eddie Cowell. Now it's no longer.
It's the reverse.
You know what I'm saying?
It's true, Troy. They are my friends.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them. I've ate dinner with them. I've been to their houses. I've hang out with them on a regular basis.
But it's not just, you're not the only candidate who's friends with them.
No, not even. There are other candidates.
There are Republican candidates who are friends with them.
But I think you know me well enough to know that I'm not a person that's afraid of hurting my friends' feelings, because if they do something wrong, I gotta tell it, because you know what people tell me? That was stupid. What were you thinking?
You're friends with Carlos, so that's like...
I mean, and not just friends. We've talked like every day.
He gets it all the time. I call his office. I say, whose stupid idea was that?
Yeah, listen.
What happened there?
and truth be told, is I work on a lot of the policy that comes out of the Public Safety Committee. I work a lot with the Speaker. I work a lot with Clint Rigel. I work with a lot of the Democrats. And we try to have a collaborative effort, but I think right now the legislature is discombobulated to a point where it's difficult to get anything done. It's like everything is like pulling teeth.
Well, what do you think that's about? Is that just a personality thing? You think
I think it's a combination of a few things, right? I think first, over the past 3 terms, we've switched out 15 members. There's no one now besides the Speaker that has more than 3 terms.
Okay.
That being said, there's not a lot of connections to the old way of politics. One thing that I think I have is I've sat in negotiations with, BJ Cruz, Ben Pangilinan, Rory Respicio, some of these other people that, that the legislature was much cleaner. It's not necessarily better. It just was done. A lot of the negotiations were done. So when we got to the floor, they said their piece.
Let me interject something, though, because you mentioned a lot of names and they're all Democrats. What is your approach to dealing with people on the other side?
I think that Tony Ada and Frank Blas Jr., for instance, are 2 of my really good friends that I still talk to. Up until the time that my friend Joe Mesa from the Election Commission passed away, we used to go and have drinks once a month. John Taitano from the Election Commission, also a Republican, good friend of mine. I don't have a problem with your politics. As long as at the end, look, here's what I have a problem with. Right now, we get people that are on this side and on this side. And I think that generally what is the best thing is when we can all coalesce around ideas that is closer to the middle. And if we keep pushing this side is right and this side is right, then we get a mess. And you don't get anything done for the people who really is important, which is the middle class and lower class citizens. And until we can get away to, I don't need my office, I don't need to send out a press release every day. I don't need to, because we're busy doing the work of the people. And when we do something that's worth mentioning, then we send out a press release. Other than that, what is the use? I don't need my name in the paper every day. What I need to do is make sure that I'm doing the hard work, right? And I'm treating the office with the respect and dignity that you should be treating the office with. Because I think right now, a lot of people say a lot of things that are not basically untrue, but they have their opinion and there's alternate facts and they see it this way. We gotta get rid of that, and we gotta get to the point where we talking again, so that Tony Ada or Joanne Brown or whoever gets elected from the Republican side can walk into my office and say, Chris, we really need to do something about the port.
Well, I hope to God that if you're elected, Joanne Brown is not.
Look, I've dealt with her. She's a very smart lady. I think that everyone has value that's running, right?
She is a liar, and she covered up corruption at the Port Authority, and she should not be elected senator. That is what I know, and that is what my opinion is.
That's your opinion. I'm not gonna sit up. You're not gonna ever see me out there taking shots at candidates, because
I'll take them for you. Don't you worry.
Troy, I'm telling you, this is the most humbling. Carlos and I talked before I ran. And I told Carlos that all my life I've been a popular guy. I got to play music. I got to travel the world. I got to see a lot of the world. Then I was, in finance in Hawaii. I made good money. I was out at the nightclubs and the bars.
Well, before you go, it's been a while, Chris, and I don't mean to date you, but why don't you explain to our younger audience who these people that you've worked with in the music industry?
I mean, a lot of the people that I play with now is old, but
Baba B
is
that's where we first met back in 1999, I think.
Yeah, this was at UOG.
At UOG,
yeah.
Right, and it was you and Michael Chalikilis and Uriah Perez. Derek Hinata, Carlos, Angie. I still see Angie at DOL. I still talk to her. But yeah, so I mean, look, I was blessed. I'm a small guy. I'm a guy from Kauai, where I grew up. You had 40,000 people. Nobody. We had one street light until 1987. One street light on the whole island. So I went to Honolulu after I went to college to play football. I got hurt. Then I went back to Honolulu and I started going to school at UH, and I started doing gigs with a local band from Kauai. My brother's ex-girlfriend, who he had a baby with, and this other girl called Leahi, and they did a song called My Two Daddies and I'm So Lucky. So that was my first introduction into the music scene. Well, me and my brother were both, from Kauai, and we'd moved up, so we started our own little band. From that, we got to meet all of the stars, because we played at this place called the Oasis on Waialae Avenue. And we used to play from 12 to 4. And all the other bars around town where the big musicians used to close at 2. So Henry Kapono and Sean Na'awao and the Banao Company and Hoai Kane and Chief Raga and Brother Walter and Island After, they all came in. So they were our fans, and it was great because we would call them up to jam, and they would end up playing I would have, on my stage, was with all of these people. So then after a while, these guys started asking me, oh, my guitar player, can I go to California next week? You can come. Here's the music. So it taught me that you better be ready to go, right? So I started with Leahi, Sean Na'awao, Brother Walter. I did a lot of gigs with Fiji, BET, Ilona Irvine. I played with for a long time. If you guys don't know who Ilona Irvine is, you should really look her up.
I really don't know anything about pop culture, so I don't know anyone who you're saying right now.
Well, they're all pretty big artists.
I've just been going like this the entire time. Because
See, but you was giving me positive. You were giving me a positive response, which helped me. So thank you.
You know, Chris, let me tell you what I like about you, and it's that you're running for public office, and you're coming from a place of not just aside from your political associations, right? Aside from that, you're just a regular guy, but also you made Guam your home. Guam wasn't always your home, but you made Guam your home. And what I can really appreciate about you is sort of like a mirroring for me is like, if I ever ran for public office, and you're doing it, you're putting yourself out there. If I ever ran for public office, the monkey I'd have on my back, aside from the whole like, oh, he's a druggie or whatever, is that I'm a very mean person, and I've said some really mean and messed up things, and I would always have to like deal with that. You know what I mean? And so you're having to deal with your political associations and the 2013 thing and all that stuff, but you're out there and you got your ideas, and I can very much respect that about you.
Look, I'll tell you this. Like I said, everyone makes mistakes, Troy. Everyone does. You might have had a bad day when you told BJ he needs to use his abacus more. Maybe he was having a bad day. I don't know, but I remember this is like when we
smoke coming out of his head.
Hey, what's an abacus? What is that?
It's not a calculator. It's an old.
His ability to do math.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe the vice speaker needs to use his abacus.
For a whole year, it was, I forgot my abacus. My abacus is broken.
You know, but I'll tell you this. One thing that I always try to do, okay, I never lose my train of thought, but I just don't know how to say this the right way.
Just say it.
Just say it.
I'm not a mean person. I'm not a mean-spirited guy. I want everyone to be happy.
That's very boring about you.
I know. I don't really attack people. I feel like everybody needs to be judged on their own merit. Like, I've done a lot of things.
No, that's fine.
I think that I've done a lot in the legislature, and if I get elected, day one, you don't got to tell me how to write a bill. You don't got to tell me how to write a press release. You don't have to tell me how to set up my office budget. I've done it all. So while I'm a new face and I have new ideas, I'm also someone that has the training and has been trained by people like Carlos. I mean, Carlos was really. Can I tell you the first time I ever wrote a press release? Ask.
Did he rip it up?
Wasn't him.
Oh.
The first time I wrote a press release was for some thing we had sent to. We wrote a letter to the U.S. Army for something, and I wrote the press release, and it was a page and a half. First of all, that was already okay. It was like 480 words or something. You know the kind that you get from the speaker that's like 3 pages long?
You know what I hate about the speaker's press releases? Is that there are none. They only send the letters. And I'm gonna read this whole, and the first paragraph is always like the fluffy, I have so much respect for you and blah, blah, blah. So whenever I read it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to skip the first paragraph. Jim Moylan does the same thing. He has the fluffy first paragraph that means absolutely nothing, and the substance starts in the second. I'm just messing with someone here.
We all have our different writing styles.
Yeah.
Some people like to elaborate on a whole bunch of stuff. I tend to be like straight, short to the point. We need to get this out. You know, there's also the timing dynamic.
He's like this. Yeah. He's like this. Look, there are 5 things you say in the first paragraph. Who, what, why, when, where. That's it. Move on.
Carlos is in a former career was a journalist.
Yeah. No, so I took it to Carlos first, and Carlos goes, "Oh, go take this to Joshua." This is when Joshua was our chief of staff.
Tenorio.
Yeah. Current lieutenant governor.
And Joshua brought me back.
It was red.
Red. Everything was red. Red. X out the back.
You know what, KanditLand.
Can I just because of this, because of you working in the legislature, that's the positive part. You understanding how it works, right? Because I'm confused. Like I'm just learning a lot of this, right? But I think a lot of the people now, the people of Guam, want change,
Right.
And I think they're concerned, as well as mine, is that they would be concerned because you're going to bring the things that we want out. You know, does that make sense?
No. Well, I guess the perception could be, Chris, having worked there as long as we have, is that we're insiders.
And maybe that's true. But I'll tell you that I have real plans, real things that I want to do that are tangible. I see a lot of interviews that people are giving right now, and they say, well, we got to improve our public safety, or we got to improve education. Or we got to step it up. The police got to get better. Yeah. I mean, look, anyone can give you a canned answer. I can sit up here and tell you public safety. It's the easiest thing for me to do. I know your voters hate gambling. The easiest thing for me to do would have been to say, I don't like it. But one thing about me is I get my principles, and no one can make me change my principles.
Oh, believe me, we've had this argument before. I would tell him that idea will never fly.
Look, I'll tell you this: for the
How often does Carlos call you a bleeding heart liberal?
all the time, But I'm more socially liberal.
No, I got it.
Right? I'm a social liberal because I feel like, look, people just got to be free. We need to support them with the programs that they need. We need to make sure our kids get educated. We need to get people off of welfare and put them to work. Why aren't we teaching job skills to everyone who's on welfare? It's never about.
We used to do it.
Right. We need to. These are the things that we need to do. And it's not just the government, because the government cannot solve all of our problems. It'll take a community effort, right? The community. We need people. We need volunteers to set up a trailer where people can go and get job skill training, because they want to have better workers in the workforce. What percentage of us have used Excel and PowerPoint and Word? I would say 70, 80, 90% of the population have tried it out, right? What if you can get proficient on that? And then you can go and work in human resources at Cortec, or you can work in, data entry at Docomo Pacific, or whatever. And then we get more people into the workforce, and we reduce the reliance on federal money and federal programs. We can reallocate resources to make sure that we're providing the best services to our people. I'm extremely proud that over the last year we were able to give GRTA a building that took, and you were working on this with the Calvo administration, trying to get the one call, one click center up. We finally did it earlier this year, and they're going to have a one call, one click center. So how is that going to affect public transportation? Maybe we'll have less cars on the road. These are little increment. Look, you've been to Honolulu. Have you ever seen the bus on Honolulu? It's great. Gets people to work on time. It saves them money on gasoline. Right? It reduces. So every time we get
people use their car everywhere.
No, but it's small incremental changes like that, right? Nothing that I can do tomorrow is gonna be a magic wand that's gonna fix Guam's problems. But if we make small incremental changes on every little thing, if we retool and reevaluate what we do at Rev Tax, at Park and Rec, at the Department of Chamorro Affairs,
At 5 Stop.
Yes, the 5-stop service center.
Trust me, they're trying, right? The problem is what we talked about earlier, right? The computer system that we get right now is MS-DOS.
Actually, I know. So a lot of things that you're talking about are things that a governor needs to change, not a legislature. But this 5-stop thing, actually, matter of fact, it was one of my projects. It is not a governor-driven initiative to truly make it a one-stop. There are statutes that need to be repealed or reformed in order to truly make it a one-stop. It's a whole elaborate thing. I prepared a report on it and everything.
It's a big undertaking.
That's something that a legislature can actually do.
It has to get started. Like, I'm probably not going to be the one, but I'll support any legislation to do it because I have too much that I want to work on in case I do get elected. I want to make sure that we're upgrading our revenue tax. The kiosk thing, you seen it, right? Mm-hmm. Seriously, takes like 5 minutes. I watched somebody do it. That's why I took the video. I asked him, what is that? Oh, I just registered my car.
We didn't get a chance to ask you about police corruption and crimes against women and children or the MMA. So but we're running short. Okay. We've gone for an hour and a half already. This has been a great discussion, Chris, and thank you for being frank with your answers. And like you said, you could have answered yes, you're against gambling, but you didn't, and you stuck with your principles. So thank you so much for that.
But if you want some short answers on those questions, we can.
No. What we'll do is we'll bring you back on the show to have another discussion on it. This has been a great discussion so far. I think some of our viewers are sold on it. I think some of our viewers still have questions, and so it would be good for our viewers if you came back and answered more questions on other issues. But before that, you get a fun question. Oh no! And I really hope you get the really fun question.
You have to pick it, and I'll open it.
Okay. Let me see. Wait. How come when I get one in here, you guys tricking me?
No.
No, just kidding.
Talina or Tele?
if Talina Nelson and this was the fun question, and Tello technically got into a fight, who would you bet, since you're a gambling man, who would you bet would win that fight and why?
I'm just going to go partisan. And
I knew it.
I would say partisan, and with all respect to Senator Taidagui, I just think Talina is younger. She's in the military. She probably has some training. So maybe she would probably...
You know who's going to call me 5 minutes after this show?
Tell her. Hey, I'm friends with her. Once she even shared the stage with me.
Yeah, there's a bunch of your friends that are also musicians. There's
Louise,
Senator
Louise, Chris Duenas one time jumped on stage with me, the former senator, and Tello. And Frank Blas Jr. also likes to sing every now and then. Those are all the Republicans, my Republican friends.
Well, your treasurer is a
My treasurer is a Republican also.
Who's your treasurer?
Phil Roberto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you know what? Give me 2 minutes to talk about the arbitration law.
Well, actually, you get as long as you want to talk directly to our audience.
Okay. Well,
and you can talk about the medical law, and you can talk about anything else you want.
Okay, so this is basically my close, but I want to talk about medical. I want to talk about the arbitration.
Sure.
It pains me that people who their child or their wife or their husband, brother or sister, in the time of their life when they're most in need, is asked to put money aside to get arbitration. What I think we can do, and I've discussed this with a few people, but currently, or 2013 or 14, or maybe 2013, I think, we passed a bill with Senator Eileen Yamashita, who I really liked. And my boss really was behind this bill to give money to the arts. So GRMC, I know, has a qualifying certificate, and they are required to pay $1 million to the Department of Chamorro Affairs. And not that the Department of Chamorro Affairs don't need the funding, but I think we could allocate some of those resources to create a arbitration, like a pre-review.
A screening panel.
A screening panel. I mean, and have them decide whether or not we're going to actually go to arbitration, or if we're going to go to court and sue. So I think we take some of that cash, set up a screening panel like that, and then if they need to go to arbitration, the government should pay for that, so that people who lose somebody because of negligence of their physician or their medical professional shouldn't have to bear the cost of that, and they should be able to seek some kind of remuneration for that if it's negligent, right? I mean, God forbid if somebody ever did that to my son, I don't know what I would do. But I know that no one should have to go through that. And I feel for these people. And it's not just one or two cases. There are a lot of cases. I mean, the newborn that died. And I mean, it breaks my heart. And one reason that I'm so passionate about healthcare is because we need to get good doctors here. And if we had more people on healthcare, guess what? We would attract better physicians. We would attract better medical equipment. We could attract maybe a teaching hospital at UOG, where we can attract maybe University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, or whoever to come out here and build a hospital. And then we can get cancer treatment done, or diabetes, because that's some of the things that we're so high, right? Our population is so high. Or we can work with the federal government and maybe build a veterans hospital, because that CBOP is just not enough. At Naval Hospital, we get 10,000 people in veterans. Most patriotic society, we have a CBOP and Naval Hospital. Oh, I'm talking to you. I'm sorry. Anyway, so look, I want to thank you guys, first of all, for this opportunity to come and discuss, and thank your viewers for whatever comments. And I'm going to look into the camera and I'm going to tell you this, that I'm a dad, I'm a small business owner, and I'm a reasonable man. I've worked a long time in public service. I understand how to get things done, how to work collaboratively with others. And if you give me one of your 15 votes, I can make you this one promise, or these 3 promises. Number 1, I'm going to work every day as hard as I can to make sure that we're doing things for the people of Guam. Number 2, that I'm going to treat the office with the respect and integrity that it deserves. And number 3, no matter what 14 other colleagues you put into the legislature with me, I'm going to try my best to work collaboratively with them to make sure that we do things correctly for the people of Guam, because it's not important that we do the right thing, right? It's important that we do the right thing the right way. And thank you. And I'm number 15 on the Democratic side. If you can share one vote with me, I'd appreciate it.
You have to actually ask them to vote for you. You don't know this trick? It's not even a trick. It's just human nature. You gotta do that again.
I'm asking for one of your 15 votes. My name is Chris Carillo. I'm a Democrat, and I'm number 15 on the Democratic side of the ballot. Please share one vote with me.
You gotta be more selfish than that, too. You can't, who cares about the other 14 votes? You gotta be like, if there's anyone you vote for me. I'm just giving you.
There's a lot of good candidates. There's a lot of good candidates.
I know.
I just hope that I can be one of them that they choose.
I'm just trying to be funny.
Thanks, Troy.
This is my first time ever really sitting down and talking with you. It was great.
Thanks, Johnny.
You like the conversation?
Yeah.
I thought
I'm learning. I'm watching everybody how they speak, and I'm if you notice, like, I'm really in tune. Like, I want to hear what they have to say. I'm watching their body movement. I'm watching, because me.
She's really like
I'm
very observant.
So and that's because I want to learn. It's not because I want to judge. I just want to understand what's going on.
Johnny, it's just not you. It's everyone out there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people out there.
A lot of people out there want change.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for you, because I'm not rooting for incumbents, and I'm not rooting for people like Joanne Brown and J.I. Cruz and Chris Duenas.
We have to stop saying their name.
Oh, I'm just not rooting for them. I don't want them to win, because I know that they're a part of the problem of the past, and they want to bring the past back. And I know that there are incumbents who are part of that past and continue the corruption and everything that needs to be changed. They continue it. And so I really am rooting for new candidates like you to and you guys have to be the ones who do it, who say the right thing and come across to our constituents, our viewers, as authentic. And then so I'm grateful for this conversation tonight, Chris.
And you know what? And I thank you, Troy. You and I talk a lot of times, and often you tell me that you're inside, you feel like you're a Democrat, right? I mean,
I am a registered Democrat, matter of fact.
Well,
I think we're all here. Well, I don't know about Johnny, but
I am. I registered as a
Democrat.
Yeah.
But
look, I'm gonna tell you this. We maybe not all of us aren't ever gonna agree on everything, but there are big things that we can agree on that'll make great changes for the people of Guam. And if we do it, guess what? We're going to release ourselves from this pit of despair that we find ourselves in, right? We got to be one lighthouse in a sea of despair, full of fog, and you can see something out there. And that's what you got to look to. We got to be hopeful. Everything is not lost. This COVID is giving us an opportunity to reset a lot of things. The way we teach our kids. Why are we shipping 7-pound books for 30,000 kids when we could just as easily get one licensed for a textbook and buy them a Chromebook?
Every time you say the word 3, I just keep thinking of that Joe Coy comedy thing.
Hey, you know I'm Filipino. Listen, I never told you about my history. My mom was a doctor of music.
Okay.
And my dad was a golfer, bus driver.
Oh, cool.
So, and my dad is not Hawaiian. I'm not Hawaiian. I'm mostly white. I'm half white. My mom is from Delaware. So you talk about the whitest people you ever met? Yeah, that was my mom. White. But she was very, very into education, and she taught kids. So education is always important to me. And I always am trying to look at how can we make things better for the kids. Because truly, we'll never... What funds education? Do you know what funds education?
General tax dollars?
No, it's the TEFF. The primary funding for education comes from property taxes and the federal funds, right? There's some general fund money appropriation that gets in there too. But because the property taxes we collect aren't, if you go to Beverly Hills, they get, gold-plated water faucets because that's the kind of tax revenue they're collecting. We're collecting one tax revenue for the whole island for property tax. And that's what really funds schools. That's how it's tied in most communities. So I'm not saying we got to raise taxes, but we need to, because we don't have all the cash that other school districts might have, we have to look at ways we can save money on procurement. You know about cooperative purchasing?
Wait, hold on. Hold on. I know you have a lot to say. That's why we're going to have a second interview.
Okay.
Because you have a lot to say. Because you already went 10 minutes after you just made your final appeal to our audience.
I'm sorry. I can get carried away talking about things that I want to do.
And thank you for that. Thank you for that. So that's why we'll have a second interview.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
There can be, you can talk more about it. So thank you so much for joining us, Chris. Carlos, thank you so much for joining your
I don't know when I don't know when we're gonna see him again or when you're gonna see him again.
Hey, but thanks to 76 for the great Chalikilis and
Did you like the Chalikilis?
Yeah, it was great. I never knew that was so good over there. Now I gotta.
No, they do.
In the mornings, that probably would be great with a couple empanada and some Chalikilis.
They
right?
have it all. They have it all there.
I like the empanadas there a little bit. I don't really like spicy food, but then my wife like them like super spicy. It's hard.
They have the shoe pal with the spicy and the non-spicy between the chicken and the pork. They have that. They have a lot of stuff.
We eat
there.
everything from there.
I know, but I just don't want to get any more fatter than I already am. And now I look at Carlos and look at him. He's so svelte.
So sexy.
Right? That's all right.
I would cuss right now if we were allowed to do that.
We're on the Facebook.
I know.
As my auntie would say, we're on the Facebook.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Johnny Rosario.
I'm Troy Torres.
I'm Carlos.
And I'm Chris, number 15.
Good night.
Oh, good number. Good night.
Good night, Guam.